In here, but we need to introduce you a bit formally here because we finally have you live, and we've also got a chat room going. So we're going to try to cover a couple bases very quickly here. This is a much delayed broadcast, and I want people to understand who you are and why we're doing the broadcast, and then let everyone know that we're going to be also putting this on YouTube shortly after we are done broadcasting live here on live stream. So that's what's happening. And I am talking to Mark Dharm Reese, and he has got a bio on my website. So if you're interested in who he is, his bio is absolutely fascinating. And I'm just scrolling through it here. So I just want to make you aware that that's who we're talking to. I'm calling him the NBC Whistleblower because he's got a key story about NBC. I believe specifically NBC News. Is that correct, Mark?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and
now that's the backstory. I'd done 26 shows. The producer, Kit Spear, just come in from Venezuela. He didn't know anything about TV. I later think it was a CIA front as I meditate on it. And I don't have a problem with that. My uncle created the CIA. Lieutenant Colonel called me the colonel. He said, Robert went to Reese. I remember when he left to do it when I was a toddler. And so I realized at the end of this day that I'm about to tell you that they were weird. Ronald Reagan was then the governor of California. We didn't have the research then that he was a mafia puppet, but that came out later. But I knew when he tear gassed the free speech movement at Sproul Hall, this had to be our focus. Our addiction for the show was that we would, to mix entertainment and hard news, we would ask every citizen we went to in some public events, so we talked to several, leading key questions. And the first was like a headline question. Everybody answered the same question. Then there were different follow-ups. It was very interesting. It became so popular, so Julian got promoted to direct the NBC Nightly News for the rest of his life, and I got fired. And the reason I got fired was when I brought up this topic that Ronald Reagan using military equipment to spread poison gas on free speech, assembled people speaking out on a college campus was absolutely treason to the Constitution. I didn't put it that hard because I knew I was dealing with NBC, but that was my point. I did it more softly. And the minute I said that, the two producers, Kit Spear and the boss, who didn't know anything about anything, turned sideways and started talking about a golf game. And Julian went right around 180, looked out the only window, and Marilee Reynolds, our lady who kept notes and stuff, she started playing with her fingers, looking at nothing. So after a few minutes, they turned back, and I brought up the question again. I said, "Excuse me, I'm not here. I've got another TV show I work for with Alan Ledden Productions, and we're also inventing magazine news mix, and it was Al Betts Productions, working with the producer of the Tonight Show, Paul Orr, the original Tonight Show. I'm very blessed to have a great training in media. I went on to be a Yale professor in media after the COINTELPRO guys.
Okay. You're going too fast here, and I just want to slow you down. So we want to go a little slower because these people have not heard of you before, and so we want to go through this very important story slowly. And everyone, please do see his bio. He was a Yale professor. He also was a consultant to the Pentagon, apparently. And he has also consulted and worked with some very well-known names in the world. So we'll go down that road slowly, if you don't mind, Mark. So, Mark, to back up, you were employed by NBC. Is that NBC News? Is that correct?
Yeah, in two capacities: the Speak Up show and an investigative journalist. On the strength of creating such a wonderful show and saving everybody from troubles, it became the most popular show for a long time. So I got
and the name of the show, the name of the show was called what?
Speak Up.
Speak Up.
Speak Up. That's what we're doing right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually. Well, Speak Up. Okay, and what year was this?
1969-70.
All right, and so you were on that show, and you were kind of a producer-writer. Is that right?
We had a producer. I was the writer, and as it turned out, in retrospect, that was the brainstorm of connecting the dots during discussions. So I was a show producer in that sense.
Okay, and then you were also working on another show simultaneously at NBC.
Yes, they hired me to do. They liked my work, and I was thrilled because I love documentaries. I just especially good ones. And they hired me to do a documentary on Ventura County. This is very important. And it was really special. It was like interview all the officials in the government at every level of every agency and leading, Republican business owners related to the overwhelming population explosion of all the problems that it was creating. It didn't seem to be managed. It was like, does anybody really see where to go? Okay, that took a long time to research, and the script reflected accurately everything I learned. Not one official had a clue of what to do with the situation that they were hired to take care of. Not one.
Okay.
And I wrote the script in a polite way. Here's my point, the bottom line. NBC paid me. The contract said if I wrote it, they would air it. Suddenly it vanished. They wouldn't air it because it didn't fit their bubble or something.
I see. Okay. And so that happened on that side. But now let's get back to the gassing, what was in essence, I believe, poison gas put on a crowd at Berkeley. So could you explain what was going on at Berkeley, University of California in Berkeley?
Yes, this was an anti-Vietnam War protest movement. It's famous in the history books, and it was quite spectacular when it happened. I mean, there was more people together in an associated collective than anybody ever seen up to that point. So it was historically a large event of we've had enough. This is ridiculous. This war doesn't make sense. We don't want it.
So it was a protest against the Vietnam War, and do you know the approximate year that protest and that incident happened?
Well, as I said a moment ago, it was either 68 or 69.
All right, that's fine.
It's in the history books.
Okay,
and Ronald Reagan was governor.
Okay. And did you go up there and shoot it at all, or did you just simply suggest it as a good story to cover?
Second, a good story to cover, to ask the citizens what they thought about it and to get their viewpoints.
Okay. And so what happened at NBC when you suggested the story? Can you tell us bit by bit?
Well, that's what I started to say a moment ago. Everybody in the room suddenly avoided me instantly, just like that. Boom. The director turned 180 and looked out the window with his hands behind his back and started humming. The two producers started talking about a golf game they had on Sunday and golf balls and holes and sticks, and it went on for quite a long time. And then they turned back and said, okay, resume the meeting. And when it was my turn to speak, I went back to the same point. I said, what about my question a moment ago before you were talking about golf? We need to address this issue because under treaty, tear gas for military use or for crowd dispersals is technically a poison gas. To do that violates international treaty as well as cosmic law, common law, and UCC law. If he's a signatory to UCC, it's fraud. UCC has a little hidden place in it that if you commit fraud and you're related to them, it's a $5,000 fine and 5 years in slammer for each separate offense. I didn't know these facts then, but I know it wasn't right.
Okay.
And so I brought it up again. Now, wait, here's the bottom line on the story. I think you're looking for that, right? I came to work the next day. I had a brand new Pontiac Firebird 400 convertible with Pirellis. I was so proud of myself, Coney shocks. I drive up to the gate at NBC, and the guard comes out and looks at me, and he says, "Are you Mark Reese?" I said, "Yeah." He says, "You can't come on the property." I said, "Excuse me, I'm going to my office. We have a production meeting." Quote, "If you set 1 foot on this property, you will be arrested by the Los Angeles police." I said, "What?" I said, "What do you?" He said, "I'm telling you, if you set 1 foot," I said, "Can I turn around?" "Turn around and get out." And so I went to the nearest payphone, because this is before modern tech, and I called my office. And here's the rest of the story. There's a funny side to everything. Marilee Reynolds, the production assistant who served all of us wonderfully, started talking like this. "I can't talk to you. I think they fired you." "Why'd they fire me?" "I don't know. They don't like you." Click. I thought, am I in grammar school? I'm serious. So that was that. And I don't go around suing people for breach of contract. I mean, I just move on, and go on with my life. But
right.
I'm a Taoist at heart.
But this is a clear case where this was an important news story at the time, and they simply didn't want to run it. Is that right?
It's more than that. It was a blockbuster. I ran a newspaper, and I've had columns. I had a column byline in the LA Times. It's a blockbuster, shocker. This is a major twist of the whole concept of America in the minds of everybody who exists. It's like the Nazis showed up in Sacramento with weapons to attack civilians. Absolutely rocked the boat of all citizens, and the NBC wouldn't go touch it. They're afraid. They're fear-based.
Right. Okay. So
Now,
you were out of a job. Did you take any actions at that time?
no, ma'am. I had another job with Al Betts Productions doing an even better show. And it's a full-time graduate student at UCLA Film School, working on my Master of Fine Arts. And I just married Bill Russell's girlfriend after she said she didn't date white guys. So I had my hands full. I didn't have time to go play with NBC.
Okay. All right. Do you want to talk more about your background in terms of how you became a Yale professor, and also how you were consulting the Pentagon, and then also the rest of the story to do with your bio there, because you're obviously a very fascinating guy.
Well, thank you very much for that, and I feel equal ditto to you. I'm a big fan of your site. I've been crawling around reading everything you've got practically. Namaste, my friend. Yeah, Yale professor. Okay, we're back to COINTELPRO. I had been an unpaid executive with the Entertainment Industry for Peace and Justice, founded by actor Peter Boyle, Donald Sutherland, and Jane Fonda. And when I was coming home from UCLA one night, they had a big banquet, a big event at the Wilshire Beverly, and when I saw it was like professional Hollywood professionals assemble, to work against the war. And so I didn't go home. I went right in there. I remember sitting there was all these beautiful, I'm going to name now, they're all gone, but all kinds of famous people sitting around me. Oh, there's that beautiful actress, and here's this handsome guy who does this stuff. And, it was like a serious meeting. I went and signed up. Not many did. And after, it turned out that Peter Boyle was totally silent. Donald Sutherland, the only time I ever saw him was he came to the meetings, which we had almost every day in Jane's living room, brainstorming. We had formed committees, and I was in charge. I was on two committees. I was the person in charge of street theater, because I'd already had a Beverly Hills theater company, which was so avant-garde, it got written up favorably in both Time and Newsweek, the Burbage Theater, when we did the James Joyce Liquid Memorial Theater. So Jane and I did a lot of brainstorming, and we had a think tank committee. My street theater company dealt with a strategy, which is very simple. We want to shock people with truth where we know they have some kind of openness. So we went to synagogues and churches, tried to do 2 a day, every religious day, in our makeup, singing and dancing, doing mime and song, and being, like clowns. I was the only one who's straight out of makeup for a serious reason. I'm in charge. If the cops come, which is classic, I want to make sure I've got the advantage. They don't target me first. So I would simply observe after we planned and did everything. We had an FBI agent in our group.
You had an FBI agent in your group because was he a plant, or was he there by invitation?
No, he was a plant, and he only showed up after we were successfully riling up congregations. We actually been chased by priests, by rabbis, by people coming out of church, and they see these signs, they just would go, not all of them, of course. There's a minority. There's 13% of society who say you're psychopathic. I think it's a lower number, but maybe in government it's higher. I know it is. Because I've worked for county, city, I've been a city cop, county, anyway, I've got a lot of background stories. But people reacted, and that got attention to the people in charge.
So what you were doing,
making a difference.
But what you were doing, you were with Jane Fonda, just so people understand this. Yes. This is back during protesting the Vietnam War, right? And you were doing sort of a street theater kind of a protest, but you were also infiltrated. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
That's right. We spotted the gentleman one by one. If something wasn't kosher. Well, I was going to say, kosher means you're total and you're committed, and you're every human being is an ambassador from God as an infant, and there's no such thing as original sin, and people are not evil. I've proved all this scientifically. So everybody's waiting around in strange stories. Sin means not to thrive.
Okay.
And my favorite rabbi is Rambam from the Middle Ages, and when I read Rambam's definition of sin, I said, "Right on, Rambam. That is absolutely right." And in the I call them the found books of Nag Hammadi, the Book of Truth and the Book of Thomas. When Master Yeshua ben Joseph is talking to his two favorite disciples, Mary Magdalene and Judas, he says, "You have what I have, and you are my two favorites because you have the Father, the same." And there's a point I'm leading to here. He talks to them and says the same as my tantric master Rajani said to us back in the day. Just go out in the world and be a presence. You're not to go out and be a political person. Right? Just be a divine, happy presence with the Father's energy in you. And Mary, in this, you can go read it on John Lash's website. But Mary says, you know, basically, cool. You know, I'm on my way. And Judas starts to say that, and he says, in my words, he says, you know, but when I do, there's always these people that come out of the crowd, and they're angry, and they curse you, and they don't like me, and I just want to show them what I think of that. And he says, no, you don't show them nothing. You just be a presence. See, so he's telling his favorite guy, don't turn, you know, just turn the other cheek, you know.
Yes.
Well, that's the same phenomenon I experienced.
Okay.
See?
Absolutely. Okay. And lovely. Now, what I'd like to do is also talk about why you or how you became a consultant to the Pentagon. Can you talk about that?
Well, let me give you the sequence. I'll jump it really quick, and then we
All
can
right,
go to the Pentagon.
that's
I can
fine.
tell you that, okay, as a headline, it's more exciting. I had taken refuge in India, where I lived for almost 10 years by choice, and to earn money to stay there, I came back. My mother by then had married her 8th husband, who was her lover when she dropped Chuck Hansen, who was a 10 most wanted felon that she got President Truman to spring out of Walla Walla when her father, a Supreme Court justice, died. So that husband went back to that time, and I was just, you know, life is so amazing. Well, you married that guy now. He was a millionaire, and I came back to visit them, and she said, what are you going to do now? I said, I need to make some money. Okay, cut to the chase. American Passage Marketing hired me for a project, which I thought was amazing. I like to get paid to do nothing. I like to travel. The job was travel around America in a truck and put up promotions to entice officers, to entice the best quality students to become officers for all 5 services. And when I saw the quality of because I'm a trained graphic artist, and when I saw the quality of those posters, being a former Yale professor, I went, bingo, whoever's running this has got their brains together. I'm in, because I am an American guy, and I'm totally military. I'm just anti-war. I'm not anti-war. I've learned that war is made by insane people, and I can prove it. And so that's another story right now. And that's how I did. And later, the Pentagon said there were 5 of us nationwide. I went off and ended up in the worst blizzard in American history at that time, in a Toyota pickup that somebody donated to me. And somebody else donated a camper show, because when God's doing something, it's all easy. And I was being blessed by God. But I ended up in the worst blizzard, and I'm already in the light. I was the only vehicle moving sometimes, keeping on duty. There was tractor trailers, everything was jacked. It was really interesting, and quite a odd sight. And I was unhappy. I thought, why is the world being so weird? But that was the job, and they said I got the best response in the nation through the several schools. Now, let me add an addendum for my motive. I am a professional sociologist, and I don't rely on books only. I hardly ever read them anymore. I go out in the field and do research with the topics I'm interested in, and university students and how they in school. I'm a curriculum design specialist, and I've done that for the University of Washington. I co-created the first Black Studies department in the history of America, and I was the only white male. The dean appointed me. There was a head of the Black Panthers, the head of CORE, the head of SNCC, and the only Black PhD who didn't have a job, and one beautiful white woman with blonde hair and built like Dolly Parton. And in the tea sessions and coffee times, at least half the blacks were hitting on her, but she ended up being my girlfriend. But she was Phi Beta Kappa.
Okay,
really smart.
but wait, 1 second. So which university did you do this for?
Black Studies, University of
Yes.
Washington, summer of 1968.
Okay, is that Washington State or Washington, D.C.?
No, it's Seattle, Washington.
Seattle, Washington.
University
Okay,
of Washington.
just to get our facts right.
Yeah.
Now, okay, so that's very interesting, but I want to get back to the Pentagon consultants. So you basically were a sort of a recruiter for them. Would you call it that?
Yeah. Yes, it's publicity and promotion to recruit the best and the brightest to join the service, and
okay, and to join
that
what
was.
Service specifically?
Oh, any of them. We put you want to be in the Coast Guard, Navy, Marines, Air Force, whatever, Army. You know, it's just
Okay, and
you want to serve your country.
How long did you do that?
I did it for 2 tours. I made enough money on that first tour, left and went back to the ashram in India, where I stayed for several years. And then I made my living in India consulting with people, and I realized I just want to change the scene and make some other money. And I came back, and my mother loaned me she bought brand new for a previous husband decades ago, and I went on that one in a brand new 68 GMC 3-speed 6-cylinder. It was like a time warp. It was wonderful.
Okay,
But the same
okay.
thing. They said I also had the best report.
But you also say in your bio that you consulted with a number of stars, including Hillary Clinton, it looks like, but maybe I misunderstood that. Can you explain who you were consulting with and why you were able to help them specifically?
Yes, I'd be happy to. And it ties in with my return from India. When I left. Okay, can I just put the stories together in sequence really fast, like bumper
All
stickers?
right. Yeah.
COINTELPRO was so efficient at erasing my career. I didn't figure out it was them until I read the church committee hearings a decade later and connected all the dots. What happened was people like me. I'm trying to make this really short. My agent, Reese Halsey, used to say, I never talk on the phone to anybody. Time is money. But I like you, and here we are in another 20-minute conversations, and I enjoy it. Well, he was the last guy I ever called that hung up on me after nobody would call me, couldn't go to nobody. Hollywood's parties, everything is dried up, and I didn't know why. And so I called my agent, and he hung up, then I went, click, it's the government. They've gone around and done something.
Okay.
Now, okay, so then Spirit, I had a 10-room house in Hollywood Hills there, brand new BMW, I wore custom-made boots and shirts, and I like to live. And I had a BMW so new that one time he gave me a ticket and the cop didn't even know what kind of car it was. He thought it was an Italian car. But that I ended up living in a slum apartment on the edge of Venice and Santa Monica, occupied by heroin addicts. And I fortified my door. I wanted a cheap place where I could write. And several amazing things happened in that time frame. And among them was, as soon as I got settled, my higher self said, go and apply for teaching jobs as a professor. And I thought, that sounds good, because if you want a little more resume pertinent to this, I had been hired at the University of Washington School of Communications to teach graduate students in their courses about intrapsychic conflict before I had a degree, based on a research paper. This is a whistleblowing story, where in a previous upper class seminar as an underclassman, I got permission based with Alex Edelstein to go there, and I blew the whole field. And I remember my wife at the time saying to me, why are you on that paper so long? You're faster than that. I said, honey, all these people are talking about why people are crazy inside they don't seem to know what they're talking about, and they all claim they do, and it's really driving me nuts, and I've got to bust them. I'm not sure what to do. She said, well, you'll figure it out. And I did. And then I never tell a bad story unless I can give it an upward spin. So I suggested a study that we could do as scientists, communication scientists, and sociologists to push the field forward. Dr. Alex Edelstein, when he gave me the paper, wrote on top, Mark, I would give you 5 A's for this paper, but they fired me. I have 2. Then he got me, I learned 20 years later.
You're talking too fast, so I can't, I think that people are not going to understand. Could you back up a little bit and slow down a little bit and just tell us,
yes, sure.
Tell us what you were just telling us about this, I don't know, I guess I'm really confused. What do you...
Jump at it. Let me bring you...
You wrote a paper.
Say the first word to come.
It sounded like you wrote a paper.
Okay, I got it. Let me answer you this way. Some intellectuals wanted to know what was it with the Nazis that they went around killing the Poles, who were intellectually, genetically superior, and all the Jews and anybody else they felt like, including trying to kill all the Russians. What makes people behave that way was the point. The term for that is intrapsychic conflict. It means conflict inside yourself, conflict in your head or in your mind, whatever you want to call it.
Okay, intrapsychic conflict. Okay.
Yes. Yeah. And so I was in communications. I was studying production and writing, but also theory, both. And this is a theory angle on it. And Alex was part of an intellectual group trying to, rationally understand scientifically why those people did what they did. We didn't know then. I know completely why now. I've made it my purpose to find out. But that was intrapsychic conflict. And, in the loosest sense of whistleblowing, I actually blew the whole field apart because I said they were all BSing and they weren't accurate, and I didn't know why, but here's the way to find out. Does that make sense?
Okay. You said here's the way to find out why they're not telling the truth, but what was the answer?
Oh, I don't know. I didn't stay to find. I figured See, he offered me to go to Michigan State and get a gold-plated PhD fast track, and I said, Alex, if I already know more than the professors in the field, what makes you think I want to go there? I'm going to go learn how to make films at UCLA. I don't follow losers. I like winners. I like to win. So when I saw nobody knew what they were talking about, I turned and went in a different direction. I'm glad I did now.
Okay, so you were offered to go to Michigan State, but you decided to stay at UCLA. Is that correct?
Well, to go to UCLA, I've never been there yet, to get into the film school.
So you decided to go
One
into film school after that.
Yeah, I'm the first graduate with a 4.0, but I can whistleblow them too. They held me up for a year because President Obama is a reflection of a master's thesis. I wrote a script called The Preacher Man. I wanted to do it for Bill Russell to make up to him for marrying his girlfriend in LA. And he's a great laconic fellow, and I thought he'd be great. The Preacher Man was a comedy in a Victorian Western town where the townspeople had decided they were so corrupt, they were tired of being all the business, everybody's corrupt. We got to get some law and order here. Put out an ad. The only guy takes an ad. They haven't seen him, but he's coming. Took the ad. We see on the stagecoach when the film's open. There's this big, tall black guy, and he's got a bottle of something in one pocket and a Bible in the other. Actually, I changed it to Walt Whitman now. And so then we see them waiting for him. And then when he arrives, the tuba player goes home.
Okay.
The other guys cut down the welcome band. So that when I turned that in, my committee said that's not an acceptable topic for the prestige of the school. Now, in the meantime, I brought my wife to a faculty meeting, and they started dropping my grades, and everybody in the seminar told me that I had the best paper they ever saw on how to get a B. So I went to that professor and said, I think you're a racist because I've talked to everybody else in the seminar, and if you don't put the proper grade in this, I'm taking it to the administration. The grade reappeared magically the next day. So I don't like racists, and if they get on me, I get back on them with information or something to say, excuse me, this is a freewheel galaxy. I work with Archangel Michael. I've worked with Michael all my lives. There's no such thing as enslavement in a freewheel galaxy. It's only created by idiots and confusion. So okay. I lost a year. I had to do an extra year at UCLA. And then when I left, the chairman says, you got out of here with a 4.0. Nobody gets out of here with a 4.0. And I said, Mr. Chairman, I also took classes in other disciplines in other schools, didn't I? Oh, they must have had a grudge. I don't know.
Okay. Now, at the moment, though, what I'd like to do is kind of make sense out of the people that you seem to have helped with what appears to be lawsuits. Sorry?
In one case, yes. That was Frank Sinatra.
Okay.
I resigned my Yale. Yale had offered me, it's Yale, the Harvard of the East in China, the Chinese University of Hong Kong. And it's a CIA-created school for the upper elite, rich children of the richest people in China to get a Western education. And it was a privilege to be in such a wonderful school. It looked like it was designed by Frank Lloyd Wright. When I resigned, they offered me a promotion. They said that my students had become so smart, they were outperforming students in any other classes. What was my method? I said I didn't have any methods, but I took them back to basics, and one of the basics of the basics were understood. And suddenly something clicked in them, and they were brilliant. But my daughter had been kidnapped by her mother, the former girlfriend, wife, and I wanted my daughter back in my life, so I didn't take that. I went looking for her. That's how I ended up working for Frank Sinatra. My friend Bob Brenner was another gentleman with Jane Fonda, EIPJ, and he was a Beverly Hills entertainment law specialist. And he was a wonderful, I don't like the word Jewish. I reverse it and say it's wedge, because that's an invented word, and I'm an honorary rabbi, so I can say that. But Bob and I love each other, and he put me right in his apartment, let me drive his cute little Mercedes sports car around. And after a couple of weeks, even friends get a little, and he says, listen, you can't be doing it. You don't know where she is, blah, blah, blah. I have friends that are in trouble. Would you like to do some work? I said, sure. So I was sent to an address. I'm trying to make this really quick. It's really funny. And it was all a marble hall lawyer's office on Wilshire Boulevard. In those days, I'm already with Acharya Chandra Mohan Rajneesh, a tantric master in India. And we're wearing orange clothes and beads with his picture on the locket. And this man required that. And it's a way to create minor shocks so you can wake up when people take offense to it and you can be peaceful. It's a really wonderful device. Well, I walk into this office in this garb, and there are not one, but 1, 2, 3, for 5 people who look like lawyers, the one behind the big desk, and they all do a double take, and they kind of, some of them are gossiping, making little snide remarks. But when I open my mouth and answer the questions, they all suddenly sit up and start paying attention to my answers. And at the end of 45 minutes, the large guy who owned this huge desk said, they all looked around and did another double take, and he said, one last question, what do you think of Frank Sinatra? And I speak spontaneously, and I knew where I was. And then it clicked, bingo. I said, I've heard he's associated with mafia and all that. I don't really care about any of that. I said, he's a wonderful singer. My mother loves him, and I do too. And then they all laughed and said, meeting's over. And then I was, yeah, right. So now I get sent to Palm Springs. The story, and you want the details? It's kind of, or I can tell them really fast.
Somebody we have time, but no, don't talk fast. Go slow. So go ahead.
Let me tell you the bottom line. Bottom line, his people. You know, Sinatra's pretty well connected. Okay, I was a producer writer for Peter Lawford in back on Alan Ludden's show, and Sinatra, you know, he was a superstar when I was born in 1942. He was already hot, and so in 2.5 years, all his money and people, they could not bust this. They said, all his lawyers said, he's guilty. He's going to pay a $2.5 million fine, and he's going to have this on his record that he beats up men in the restrooms of bars over women, even at his age. Well, that was the frame. And so I went to Palm Springs to a cold crime scene, which was the club where it happened. We're in my Orange at 10 a.m. on a morning, and there were only 4 or 5 very Sicilian-looking Italians, all in shiny black patent leather shoes and silk shirts. I went up to the bar. They were all talking on the side. Nobody came to me for 5 minutes. One guy walks up. I'd never seen this in my life before. He says, all right, free country, one drink and out. I pulled out this piece of paper Sinatra had written in his own hand on a stationery. It says, to whom it may concern, any favors to Mark is the same as to myself. Here's truly Frank. This guy looked at that paper, and his whole personality went from up yours to any friend of Frank's is a friend of. So I interviewed him with every question I could think of for the next 30 minutes and turned in my report, and I thought that was the end of it. A week later, they hired me to go up and go where the perp was, and I outed him within 24 hours with an eyewitness who saw him going out and jitterbugging, basically. But his claim was he couldn't work, he was all damaged, he was going to die, and they all had this fake document. So I had an eyewitness. Then the eyewitness wouldn't talk, but his wife was in the kitchen. She says, honey, I love Frank Sinatra, help the man. So I got a testimony from an eyewitness. The guy was a liar. Sent it down, judge threw the case out of court. Boom.
Okay,
2.5
very good.
weeks.
All right, excellent. All right, well, that's like, can you talk about? You talked about your father being someone who started. Did I hear you right? You said they helped start the CIA. Was that what you said?
Uncle, yes, his brother, who actually is the secret father of my so-called brother, because when my father ran off with his secretary, who looks like my mother physically, who looks like his mother, my mother then went with his twin brother, Robert Winter Reese, and I remember them visiting on his houseboat all the time. He had just come back from World War II. He'd been a navigator, B-52. He's a war criminal, firebombing like Dresden. And then, but you know, that was the game. And you're in the game, God bless him. It's a very brave thing in a B-52, and he survived. But he ended up on the OSS with Wild Bill Donovan. And I remember when he vanished, because all kinds of
You remember? Wait a minute. You remember? Wait. Hello.
Signed that in July.
Wait. Stop. Okay, you remember who vanished?
Yeah.
Who?
When Colonel Robert Winter Reese left being my mother's lover in his houseboat and never returned because he got called to Washington, D.C. In 1946. He got re-upped by Wild General, William Donovan to create the CIA after Truman signed the executive order. By the way, executive orders are not lawful. They're not legal. They're a fraud. This is a finding of fact. Any executive order is a fraud, and it's 5 years in the slammer and 5,000 per offense. The federal government only has jurisdiction in Washington, D.C., prisons, forts, and the territories they haven't released yet. The Commerce Clause is bullshit, and it's a legal battleground, and some say yes because they want it, and the real guys say no, and I'm on that side. The feds are so out of control. We're trimming their fat. The 10th Amendment, you cannot break it. So those are just facts. And so anyway, my uncle went back, and they created the CIA. Now here's where the story gets interesting to me. They broke up. I mentioned earlier, my mother called Truman to spring a 10 most wanted guy from Walla Walla who became my half-sister's father, Chuck Hansen. and my mother dumped me on my father, who I'd never seen. And I went to the first grade in that neighborhood, and it was so boring because I could read comic books, and they were going, see Jane run Jane run, and I could read Batman and Green Hornet and Superman and Wonder Woman, and then they didn't like it, so I'd hide them behind the see Jane run. Then they'd find me and hit me with rulers, and I thought, this is nowhere. And then if I spoke out, they'd gag me and put me in the cloakroom. So when I would doodle 3 things: a head from Easter Island. I don't know where it came from. I now know that I had a past life there. They destroyed the place ecologically. And then I was doodling something that I didn't know what it was until I was in India in the ashram decades later, talking with a friend in therapy, and they were asking, what were you doodling in that trying time? It was the original CIA logo. I'm sitting in the first grade, hour after hour, doodling the CIA logo. That's how close my uncle was to me psychically. We loved each other. His energy field was running through me so much that I could sit there in the first grade and doodle the bloody CIA logo. So,
Okay.
you know, I now know there's good CIA. Yeah, 4.5% of the CIA are us. I did the pendulum on it, and I've created a curriculum for them, a 3-part curriculum to weed themselves out by muscle testing on the basis of Sir Dr. David R. Hawkins in his book. I'll give you a turn around. Excuse me for a minute. I'll give you the ISBN number. Anyone listening, David R. Hawkins is an MD and a PhD. I'm always impressed by people who do that because they're in service. They wouldn't do it otherwise. And he's been praised by Leah Coco and Mother Teresa. And the ISBN number is 0-9715007-2-X. 0-9715007-2X. Why do you want this? This on the back cover is true. Truth, like the images of Mars, is like a Rorschach's card of which people project their illusions and fanciful meditations. Now a science of truth has emerged for the first time in human history, which enables the discernment of truth and falsehood, and it's based upon simply muscle testing with 2 people. I find that if I test myself, I can get faked out because the archons are visiting again, and then they trick you. So you need 2 people. It's foolproof. It ends all Guantanamo. All this stuff is ended. You don't need to torture anybody. You don't need to waterboard them. You simply teach them muscle testing. You can do it right now. If you hold your arm out and say resist, push down, then say, the code word is, if you say Christ, everybody's strong on earth for that, or Buddha. If you say Hitler, everybody goes weak. That's your test. But you can have fun with this. I tested one fellow and I said his mother's name, and he was weak as Hitler. And so you can find lost car keys. You can find lost history. This book is impeccable for ending violence on the earth. Truth versus falsehood, how to tell the difference. So
Okay. And you want to give people, wait 1 second. You want to give people the name of that book?
Truth versus falsehood.
Show it, hold it up to the camera. Okay.
Yeah, let me see if I can see it.
Yeah, it's a little fuzzy. Okay, that's better. So it's called Truth versus what? Falsehood?
Falsehood.
Okay. Very good. And the author's name?
David R. Hawkins.
Okay, fine.
MD.
Okay, that's
he's
great.
He's a Knight of Malta.
Okay, that figures. Okay. Okay, very interesting.
Sure. He's not a bad guy at all. He's dedicated to the truth about the human condition. I should have a copy of that map. If you'd like to see it, I can show you the core of it, and then people could copy it. It would be really cool. It's a map of human consciousness, and the troubles in life are created only by the people in the box at the bottom where there's no spiritual light. I'm a Gurdjieffan student. There's a gap.
Very good. Yeah.
Now that I can tell you the map. It's capped by pride, and in the bottom, shame. These are vibrational frequencies. There's a gap. Nobody gets out of that box without an outside help of some kind. An outside agent has to come into that closed box. Then you go into what's mixed. There's some light, there's some dark. And that's where most people hang out who aren't. Irvin Laszlo, I love his work. He's so accurate intellectually. We're virtually synonymous on seeing the same problem and all the details. But I'm one up on him that I have the solution that he keeps looking for. And he sees what I'm talking about with crystal clarity. And he has a book called, excuse me, turning my back.
No problem.
Very thin little book called, can you see this? Worldview.
World Shift 2012.
We're gonna,
okay,
yeah.
Yes.
Making a green business, new politics, higher consciousness work together. I've designed a solution for people that works exactly like that, and is either through my 501c charity. The name of my charity in capital letters is SEA-SOS, which is a symbol that, oh, the ocean needs help, seesaws. And when the IRS, head of the IRS, we did this in 5 phone calls in 2.5 hours. He gave it to me verbally with no filing requirements in 2003 in October. And he said, congratulations. Oh, this, we don't have time to go through all this, but it was an amazing moment. He was just so gruff and so businesslike. He took the call finally after 2 minutes on hold, and he says, "Do you have a pen in your hand?" I go, "Yes." "Write down this number, 572. Read that back." "Yes." "Congratulations." I had been grilled by his people for 2.5 hours, and they said, "Boss, do it," or something. And he gave me the number. Here's the deal. I know how to save the ocean through 3 of the methods, which are killing it. And if the people who are involved in the other method would participate, they would probably also not be killing it. And that's the product I invented. This is another whistleblower story. You ready for this one?
Okay.
Okay, first let me give you the bumper stickers. COINTELPRO, I'm in a little place on the Venice, Santa Monica, 1/2 a block from the beach. I sent out 100 resumes to be a professor around the world. And at the end of all this, it takes a while to do that. The last day I'm mailing and putting out in the place where I get all this information, Spirit says, "Oh, apply for the dean job." I thought, "Dean Schmeen, okay, well, let's see what that is." And I read it out and thought, yeah, I could do all that, no problem. Well, I'll apply. Okay, I did. I got an offer from Brazil in Sao Paulo, the University of Brazil. I got an offer from 2 or 3 other places, really nice places. I always wanted to be in Brazil. And the Jesuits told me that I had the job to be the dean of Loyola University. They were combining, they said, I'll give a quote, exactly what the father said to me. "Congratulations, you're the youngest dean we ever hired. You're the first dean with no PhD, and you're the best qualified dean to replace into one school of communications, the English department, the art department, the dance department, the theater arts department, all of film, broadcasting, media under one roof." And instead, I got the job from Yale at the Harbor of the East in China. I went bingo. I didn't know then I'd been Genghis Khan and 1/4 of Chinese are genetically related. I just know I like Asia. So I took that job and went there. And my wife, who was the first double minority in Hollywood because she was an executive on Star Trek, I went out to her office at Star Trek at the Black Tower place, and I said, "Honey," I was trying to get her back because we'd separated and I didn't want to separate anymore. I said, they've sent 2 tickets. How would you like to go to China and, be with me? And she said, "Yes, I'll help you and our daughter can get established." So that's how I got to Yale. And then when she kidnapped my daughter, I resigned. I'd rather have my daughter than be a professor. And so I burned up everything, American Express card, everything I had, just
Okay,
never got her back because the mother
so
went for it.
how long were you professor at Yale in China? And where in China? Are we talking Hong Kong or somewhere else?
Yeah, we're talking, let me have pictures worth 1,000 years or something. I found this in my library the other day. I'll have to hold it this way, but this is the first book they gave me when I took the job. Can you see the words all right?
The Law and Mass Media in Hong
The Law.
Kong. Very good.
Yeah. And
so you're in Hong Kong.
As I recall, yes, ma'am. But the university's in China, so I bought a British sports car and drove in and out every day. It was fun.
Okay.
Although I did get stopped. I was going under the tunnel one time. I like to go fast when there's no danger. I'm common law. So if there's no danger, we can do what we want. And that's the real law. No victim, no crime. So in this tunnel late at night, there's no traffic. Little did I know they were already Big Brother. So I put my James Bond car up to speed. When I get to pay the toll at the end, nobody would talk to me. And the Chinese, I love Chinese. They're just standing there. We don't. After a long time, I said, "Excuse me." They said, "You were going too fast." They had me on camera and meters. I had to really talk my way out of that one. I was up to like 100 at once just to get the car, blow out the carbon, I said, "I'm so sorry, I'm an American, blah, blah, blah." Anyway, so they were going to whistleblow me and I whistleblow them. I would like to let you redirect me now to where you want to go on this.
Okay. Well, I'd like you
I know where to go. Hillary Clinton. How do I get to Hillary Clinton? Right?
Right.
That happened.
Go ahead.
Let me give you another. I whistle blew the war in the Middle East first. In 1989, for the first time in over a decade, I simply sat and read all the news reports for a few days. I thought, why are they still having war in the Middle East? After I read it, I sat down and wrote a curriculum, because I'm a curriculum designer, for peace in the Middle East, and it had 6 parts. And then I looked around to see who might be interested, and I sent it to the Secretary General's Office of the United Nations, and Assistant Secretary General Robert Mueller contacted me immediately, and I quote, he said, Professor Dharm Reese, your views on how to have peace in the Middle East are among the best seen, taking the liberty of circulating them with my associates immediately. He knew it was intellectual property, and I sent right back and said, you know, God bless you, circulate. And the pattern I saw was 2 weeks later, the first point came out in the press on hallelujah, we're gonna have peace. 2 months later, the second point appeared in the press. We're on track. Then a long time, 2 years later, okay, wait, 2 weeks, 2 months, 2 years, what kind of, you know, spiral is this? Then it was 2 decades later. And then they began to do finally that point after 20 years, which would get it going, and they started shooting missiles and rockets and bombs, and all went south. So much for taking a peace plan to the UN in the Middle East. Now, I went to Netanyahu's office the first time in term. I'll blow the whistle on him. I told my story based on that experience with the UN to his people in his office. And I've had the same experience with the Pentagon in materials appropriation to protect our troops. The same exact experience with Microsoft and Bill Gates, and with Kellogg's and Disney and several other corporations. The middle people love me. I find that ironic, because middle managers are the most troublesome people on earth. And they hear me, they're real, they send it up, and the people on the top, they hang up. They just hang up.
Right.
And the gentleman in the Pentagon, I did the same thing with, well, Netanyahu was the same thing. You know, when I took it to Prince Charles before there was any Lady Diana. And his secretary said the same thing to me. The secretary of the head of British Petroleum said, when they did the BP oil spill, I saw how to turn that into a solution with my product to create jobs for all the people that lost their jobs from the disaster, and to have them ameliorate some of the trouble. But doing this, that guy is so slippery. I've never seen an eel that slippery. It took me a while to break through the barricades intellectually and get into his private office in London. They were very British, and yes, he's now at this number in Texas. They were saying, the middle manager, everybody's saying, absolutely, you've got to speak with him. And so they all want a solution. Then he's in New Jersey. Then he's never anywhere. And the more I go at it, finally they say, no, he can't take your calls. Click. I've seen this pattern all the time. I mean, it's just, corporations are bogus. There's something baloney there. It's just
okay,
ridiculous.
well, I appreciate that. Someone, you know, we have a chat room that goes along with this broadcast. Okay? You understand?
Okay, I've never been in one.
You've heard about them, right?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Well,
Yeah.
what it does is it means that people can ask questions. They're listening to this
Oh, I love
live,
it.
and they can type a question. And so I've got some people asking you questions, right? And so one of the people wants to know, what's your bloodline?
Oh, I love that answer. This is my last life on earth, and I'm blessed with mutually compatible people, oppositely arranged. My father's mother is pure Prussian. My mother's father is pure Prussian. My mother and my other way around is Scotch, Irish, and Welsh. So I am a total Celtic, both sides, the low dark side and the high upper side. I'm like the ultimate white man. And, so hallelujah.
Okay, all right. And basically, you were going to talk about how you ended up talking to or getting a letter from Hillary Clinton. Do you want to elaborate on that?
Yes, headline backwards. At the end of her term, when about 2 or 3 weeks before they left the White House after 8 years, I had not then spoken with her, Secretary Milley, or communicated with her for a year and a half. I'm going backwards in the story. She wrote, and I quote, and the letter's kicking around here somewhere, Dear Professor Dharm Reese, quoting, I am so sorry we did not get this done. Yours truly, Hillary Rodham Clinton, First Lady. Now, a year and a half before, the contract I had with her when she was at Rose Law, to go to the front of the story, I have this solution for humanity, which is why you're interviewing me. And I've been trying to bring it forward since way back when. It's in a much better, more refined way, but people just keep hanging up. So I thought, wait a minute. The way I work is I am not against selfishness. Everything I do is based upon it because that's true to the organic nature and the root brain. So I designed a project that might attract somebody. Now, Arkansas had the poorest school. Little did we know he was dealing cocaine all the time with the CIA out of, blah, blah, blah. But their school system was impoverished. And I thought, the governor's people might not let me in the southern state, who knows, might be my prejudice, whatever. But I've had troubles in the South with people when I've been alive and well, and they certainly go ballistic and start yelling at me for the best of friends several times. I go, I don't know where I am yet. So I'll call his wife, where is she, Rose Law. Now, she was a great, intelligent woman, and I don't care if David Icke says she's a reptile. I like reptiles. She's a wonderful human being doing the best she knows how, in my opinion. And I like to see the lady doctor be the president and Hillary be the vice president. I think it'd be an unbeatable team of intelligence in the next go-around.
Excuse me, but what lady doctor? Sorry, wait. What lady doctor are you talking about?
I don't remember her name now, but in the last presidential election, a woman who's a medical doctor ran for the presidency. You can Google her and find her name. I don't want to say her name because it's not in my mind right now. But
I know who
Jill
you mean.
or something.
Yeah, I forget
I read her
name.
bio.
Okay.
So I'm just throwing my ticket for the next election will be her to be president and Hillary to be vice president. And anyway, that's neither there. Hillary and I were communicating how I could bring my product, which is called IT for Integrity Tonic, which is a powerful spirulina-based formulation that I took 25 years to put together. So it's a perfect food for the human cell. And when you eat it, which is a total meal, you give your cell every material that it needs. And that's a scientific discovery, which I figured out intuitively a long time ago. A PhD, a chemical guy at UC Berkeley about 10 years ago came out, and I heard him on the radio. He said, we've determined that the human cell must have every single material need it has to have at the same time. Anything other than that is chaos. And that's what you call old age and everything else, and decrepitude and no immune system. So I was already in love with spirulina. She has no husband. I'm a woman. I'm a mother's man. I'm not a mama's boy. And the males have problems. So that's just my view of the matter. And spirulina is her own mother-daughter clone. It's a continuous life form. She survived every extinction on Earth. And when you eat it, it's really cool. But people don't eat it for various reasons. I fixed those reasons. And I took it to Hillary to take to William, not knowing he was about to run for the White House. And then it came up in the news a week later. And I thought, acha, as we say in India, what if we tie this into his campaign? That way the whole public gets it. So I sent, Hillary and I talked some more, and she agreed that, because I'd already designed a program. I don't go to executives that have got a busy lives, a lot of program in hand. And I knew exactly how to do it in the state. And I said, we will hold meetings in public auditoriums and with live audiences, and we will ask people about their concerns about health. And I said, I will turn this over to you. This is intellectual. It was a little more complicated than that. And I showed her in the same presentation. I said, this will save you enormous campaign funds because if you don't tell the media in advance that you're going there so they can get over you and scramble you, but just when you're about to show up, you tell the local media, here we are, they're going to swarm on you to cover you. And they won't have a preconception because you've shocked them in a microshock. And they don't know what you're doing. So what is he doing? Here he's talking to ordinary people in an audience about their health concerns. Well, she bought it and went for it because it's brilliant. And the rest, as I say, is history. Now, I didn't invent that idea. I was reading about Thomas Paine in town hall meetings from the Revolutionary War. And bingo, it's a no-brainer. So I then did the following. I thought, if this is into the story so quick, I said, if I charge them money, they'll forget me. And as much as I like to have income, I've got to do it in a way that they won't forget me. I said, here's the deal. You pay me if you win. When you win, you put this product in all the police agencies, in all the prisons, in all the schools, and any other federal place where the feds have actual jurisdiction, and you get all those people in some way, whatever way works for you, to eat this product. You will then discover that they're smarter, they have more memory, they're calmer, they're healthier, their immune system works, and they reverse their aging. This product was another whistleblowing. West Labs in Columbia, South Carolina. Joe Sugarman was my customer. He owned the Maui Weekly at the time. he bought a half pound of powder from me, and I call him and say, how'd you like it? Now, I'm a big fan of Joe Sugarman. He's an A-plus human being, blue blocker sunglasses fame. He's a self-made guy. And so I thought if he liked it with a newspaper, I've got publicity. And he says, I want to have it tested. I didn't find out till 2 years later, chatting with him, because we still talk off and on, that somebody had burned him on some product, blah, blah, blah. And he got suspicious. And I didn't know that, but I said, Joe, children, cats eat this. They love it. I mean, just, oh, no, okay, blah, blah, blah. I get a call the same week as 911 from a guy, and here's what I hear. Quote, I've been trying to cure cancer for 20 years with no results, and I've got 5 men with their tumors in complete remission, and I need more of your product. Are you the inventor? And I said, who are you? And he said, I'm Dr. Bob Down. And I said, well, I'm being an investigative-minded person. I said, okay, how serious are these? I don't know who this guy is. I said, how serious are these tumors? He said, their doctors told them, go write your wills immediately. And they're done. And I said, and you have all those tumors gone? I said, how did you do that? What did you do? How did you use my product? He said, I simply used it in water and injected it right into the tumors, and they died. Now, he didn't tell me why, but I found out reading years later why. And it made sense with what I knew intuitively without going into all those details. He became my best customer, and I don't like to get off the razor's edge, so I didn't go crazy with pricing. I just kept my regular wholesale price. More and more people. 2 points to this story that are crucial. I do, in those days, it only word of mouth, because I'm a Taoist, and you know, what is and what ain't. So I didn't get an order. I called the lab, and a woman answered, and she said, oh, Professor Reese, my blood's never looked so good. I said, are you on by any chance on a live cell blood analysis machine? She said, how'd you know? I says, well, I'm psychic, sort of, and I always wanted one. There's a lady doctor who had one on mine, but the FDA creamed her. She was frightened and got rid of it. And I said, what are you seeing? She says, there's so many factors. I went, wow. Then I thought, I can't market that. I said, name one. She said, well, the oxygen content is so much higher. And you should see our dogs. And I was thinking, dog schmugs. And she was psychic. She said, Professor, you don't understand. We're in hunting country in South Carolina. These are old couch potatoes. They're in their teens. They never get off the couch. She said, I started eating your product 5 days ago after I saw the lab results. After 2 days, I fed it to all the dogs. I'm watching through the window, romping like puppies. I went, great, you proved all
Okay. But are you saying, what is this product? What's the name of it? And can you show us, are you marketing it now, or is this gone now?
It's gone. The product, I just finished eating the last amount. It would have been here to show you in this empty container. But I do have it in a better form, which I'll take out of the freezer. I have here, Peggy Baldwin paid me, where are we, $40 a piece. This bottle has 3 meals for an average hungry person. It's the most potentized, powerful food on earth. If you're really hungry, you cannot eat more than this. I don't care who you are. So this is 2 meals in a bottle. And she paid me $40. She wrote a check in her mansion and turned her chef on. She invited me for dinner and turned her chef on.
Okay, but can you show us the label? Wait. Can you show us the label?
Oh, this label. No. The FDA destroyed my partners at gunpoint when I called. And then later, when I went out it took me a year and a half to get over my moody blues, being an American guy, and I snapped myself out of the funk. I had excellent credit. It wasn't perfect, but I got 3 to 5 offers a week in the mail for years. But I didn't want credit cards. Now I wish I'd done it. And when I went out to buy a new Harley-Davidson motorcycle, after Honda turned me down for a Gullwing for a delivery vehicle, I've owned over 13 motorcycles. I've traveled Europe on a Russian bike, America on a Harley for several months, and India. Anyway, they laughed me out, and I said, why? Show me my credit. Somebody went into my credit and put in all kinds of lies, and I even went to Sears, and they said it was never there. So every time I make a move, I got one of them on the phone once. I took it to the UN once years ago, and my girlfriend's at the time daughter called out, oh, Mark, look, you're finally on TV with your Save the World with Spirulina project. And it was We Are the World Musical Festival, which I sent them the project for, if they would feature my product as the commercial. So I'm going, yeah, this is what I sent them, but it doesn't make sense as a professional producer. They never called me. They didn't ask me anything. That's exactly what I told them to do. And all these, people singing. Then I waited for the commercial. Coca-Cola. I almost swore. right now, I'm sorry, I won't swear on air. I went, okay, because my dad was a Hell's Angel, and I know some swear words. So I'm blowing the whistle on those guys. I mean, I think Bill Gates and Rockefeller, my mother went to school with one. I don't have any problem with all of them, but the eugenics thing is nonsense. This is an anti-eugenics thing. My product makes the immune system so strong because this product destroys every known invader in a human being. Now, I've upgraded it after Fukushima, which was one of their eugenics deals.
Yes.
I have a code name and copyright. Fukushima, die itchy. Well, if you eat my product, you will not be itchy. It has several things in it that destroy radioactivity poisoning. I've formulated the cautious version, so it even gets rid of chemtrails, which is really not supposed to be in us. And I use Count Saint Germain's affirmations, which I adopted as my own. Count Saint Germain and I are the same. He's one of my uplines. I am now a sixth dimensional person, very rare. He's seventh dimensional, where Buddha and Christ are also. I'm coming from a lower, higher realm now, but I was just promoted recently through 2 octaves in the last 2 weeks, and that's why there's no hair now. God told me he can't communicate with my hair anymore, so I said, well, can I leave, this? But I had I like hair, but I like this better. So things are happening fast.
Okay,
food,
but wait. So the basics is it's made of spirulina, and what else? I mean, tell us what's in it.
It's a proprietary formula, but I will release my original version for everybody to use right now, because I discovered that I didn't reinvent the wheel. The original formula, with one addition, was invented by a gentleman in the Imperial Japanese fascist war with the dragon tiger that woke up, which was America. And the emperor asked this particular scientist, he needed a good food for the troops in the islands to kill Americans. And this guy, I didn't know this when I did this. I did it all and got done, and years later I discovered what I'm telling you. So I reinvented something that the Japanese are inventing, and it was spirulina and natural yeast together. Very important. It's so important, I can't stress this enough. I have no connection with this company, but Earth Circle Organics is the primo spirulina on the planet right now. Chinese spirulina is not. It has things in it. Sinotech in Hawaii, excellent spirulina. Spirulina is famous. I have a book which the Sinotech brothers created. You should find this book. You learn about spirulina. It's very small, very perfect. And
okay. So you're saying spirulina
with action jump off. Okay. Now spirulina. This is proprietary formula. I'm not going to give my whole formula away because I have a 501c and an income, but I'm giving you the base of the formula I first started with.
All right. Well, wait. Do you have a? Yeah.
I want everyone listening to this to try this for your own benefit. Find spirulina and natural yeast and vitamin C powder. Now, when I say vitamin C, I don't mean ascorbic acid. I mean like camu camu or natural vitamin C. You don't want ascorbic acid. Nutrition is a hobby of mine, and this is very accurate. But if you combine those 3 things together and you add, I got this from Linus Pauling. Let me show you what you add. The AMA will never see you. This is called L-lysine. Okay. Linus Pauling, my grandpa died of a stroke, and he still had years to go right after he retired from the Supreme Court as a justice, and I thought that was wicked. So, thing is, Pauling said, if you mix vitamin C and lysine in equal amounts, any plaque in your arterial system will vanish. You don't need pharmaceuticals. And so my original product is spirulina, yeast, vitamin C, and lysine. Got that?
Yes.
Now, I want you to add lecithin. Now, lecithin, organic, GMOs are notoriously wicked. They will destroy your everything, and that's documented. So make sure when you get lecithin, it's non-GMO. You want to put a quarter of a cup of the spirulina, an equal amount is what I learned. It took me years to learn what I just told you, and nobody paid me to do this. I'm just telling you for free. It took me years to get this ratio. I tried every way. You try it and see what you think. Try spirulina by itself. This is an ecology lesson. That's the purpose of my mission as this charity. So I'm giving you how it works right now for you to study the importance of relationship with items that are involved with your body. If you first just eat spirulina by itself, you'll get that experience. Then combine it with yeast in small amounts, build it up to half. You will see what you get. it increases the power of both of them by a quantum leap. If you take the yeast by itself, you will see that you're only getting the same thing, but in a minor way, very minor, but it's essential. Why? Because they have all the minerals. Minerals are the key to being one with Christ, not proteins. Fats are the key to your brain working properly. And sugars are death to you. Get rid of sugars, only honey and natural fruits. We're trying to build up the brain here. This is a brain balancing tonic I invented. So I call it IT. IT stands for integrity tonic. It restores your cellular functional integrity. And I did communicate with the authorities who were trashing me. First, West Lab is at gunpoint. I called the third time to see why an order hadn't come in, and an Irish voice answered, and he said, and I quote, "Didn't you hear what happened?" I said, "Cops? How'd you know that?" I said, "Well, I'm psychic. I used to be one. What are cops doing?" "Well, they tore out the computers." I said, "Isn't that where the protocols are?" "Terrible thing. Well, lost half of them." Wait a minute. That's murder by cop. I know, and we're losing the rest. Now, I started out sending one bottle to this guy. Now he's getting box loads of them every few weeks. I mean, how many people are being kept alive here, American citizens? So I said, "Excuse me, what kind of cops? What kind of warrant did they show you?" He said, "Oh, they didn't have no warrant, but they had their guns out." I said, "What? Is this Nazi Germany? Is this Joe Stalin? Excuse me? I'm having a nightmare here, Al." I didn't say that, but I thought it. And so I said, "All right. How are they dressed? You're in Colombia. What, I mean, are they state troopers?" He says, "They're all in black suits. There were two of them." I said, "A city cop?" He said, "There was one by the door. He was the only one who didn't have his gun out. He's kind of looking at the floor." I said, "Yeah, a real cop got dragged along. He couldn't bust the feds and the state guys. So he was just there being a witness." I said, "Let me talk to the director." "Oh, no, they're gone." I'm going to stop doing my Irish, but he said they went to a cabin in Tennessee woods and they're hiding for their lives. And they took the dogs, he says. So I called back the next day to speak to Vice President Gillespie, and I got that ever popular telephone recording. This number is, or whatever, no longer here. Now, years later, I connected with him. They had framed him and put him in prison. This was a dedicated doctor for 21 years to cure cancer. And because Joe Sugarman wanted to test they knew each other. Joe's also a nutrition. And I took it to a lady with a TV show like you have, Carrie, in Las Vegas, because I read about her. She had 1 million viewers. And I wanted to make a ruckus and tell, I'm a truth teller, whistleblower. And she, to make the long story short, not quote all the conversation, she said, "Professor Reese, I believe you, but my audience is tired of this. This is the same pattern. It is the FDA. And you're commendable because you want to speak out about it. And all the cases we've seen, we've done 18 in the last 18 months, we've had 20 shows on this. My audience doesn't need anymore. We know this is how it is in America. Anyone who invents a natural-based cancer cure gets a visit from guys in black suits with no warrants, with their guns out, who tear out computers and terrify everybody. And they always have a couple of local cops. Those people are all guilty of fraud under the UCC and in every other way. They should all be indicted. Where are the prosecutors? Who are they in the pocket of? I'm a cosmic prosecutor. I'm telling you right now, you're indicted, period. And I have designed a curriculum for police departments, and it works like this. You get this product and eat it. You learn muscle testing. Once you learn muscle testing, I know right now from my methods of determination that 4.5% of the CIA are us. The other ones include everything from to the confused. So the first way to get to the confused is to deal with them by muscle testing so you can see where they are in relation to the map of consciousness that I updated from Dr. Hawkins' map, which I call the Itzama map. And if you bear with me, I'll see if I can pull one out of.
Okay, but before you do that, I want you to finish. So are you selling this stuff or not?
By donation, the IRS, I asked that question. Yeah, excellent. You like the Irish commissioner. I asked him that. Am I selling this? Because I don't get tripped up in that. I said, "Let me run it by you, sir." And he said, "Do," and I did. And he agreed with me. And what it is I said, we're giving people an ecology lesson in a dramatic way with no philosophy and no words by direct experience, which is how toddlers learn. And then we give them enough written information that they can connect the dots with their mind. Oh, yeah, when I did this, this, and this, these are the benefits. Now, why would they do that when anyone eats this product, including my previous pit bull, Doberman Pinscher, mini pin, tomcats, female cats, and other creatures? Because a cell is a cell is a cell biologically. The same experience happens every time. You're lit up. Dr. Christopher Hills says when you eat spirulina, you eat light. And he was on Oprah Winfrey doing this. Spirulina died, whistleblowing, when everyone saw Oprah Winfrey losing weight from Christopher Hill's spirulina. Turned out later, corporate America flooded the market with fraudulent products made out of ground up vegetables that were green and called it spirulina, and the American public went south on it, and the word got destroyed. So I named it. I want to get out of those hangups from the past and play it forward, because it's the other thing about the AMA. We're not curing disease, folks. We're not even in that. It's a whole different dimension. This is structural integrity. That's what the earth is suffering from. People who break laws are suffering from a failure of interior structural integrity. And I've traced it down to 2 points only: bad or non-existent nutrition, period. And this is the antidote to that. The other is a disease, is a virus that I named War Raw in capital letters, WAR _RAW. War is raw. It stands for wrongly aggressive raising of children ruins authentic wholeness. Now, that's a fact. And the 20th century is filled with pioneering psychiatrists from Freud onward who got that fact. I found a book by a Danish psychiatrist recently in the 50s. He's as brilliant as I am on this topic. Why are people reading these materials and adjusting themselves? Well, that's because of the way they're damaged. And my motto is everyone's doing the best they can do. So we're bringing information forward for.
Okay, that's great, and thank you for that. But could you tell me, you really haven't conveyed the whole recipe, is that correct?
No, I'm keeping the pudding part so that when people go to my website, under construction right now, they can donate.
Okay, and so what is your website? Are you going to...
Let me clarify this. I teach the 80-20 rule, and you got to learn it. And I'm showing you through this product, and right now, what I just told you, you can make a complete meal out of that form I just gave you. You try it. You won't need anything else. Now, what you add to that meal is you put that powder in any liquid of your choice. That's water, sugarcane juice if it's real. And then you get liquid coconut oil, which is the only medium chain triglyceride. It has no harmful effects, and it restores all kinds of, the health benefits of organic coconut oil will blow your mind if you're not aware of them. It certainly blew my mind. So you take that powder and that water, oil and water do mix if you rapidly agitate that jar, and you chug-a-lug it or sip it, whatever. You will not be hungry for another 2 hours, believe me, and you will enjoy the experience. Now, you won't get the rush that I'm talking about on that alone. I have added 12 more ingredients, and the pudding has several. The pudding version, when I test market it with 6-year-olds, and they eat it, they go, "Wow, what good ice cream! Why is it green?" They don't have the vocabulary to tell them about spirulina and chlorella.
Okay, but what's your website? Okay, Mark, what's your website? Are you going to give that out?
It's been crashed because of some reasons which are really weird but true, and it's still in the process of being put back up. The gentleman next door bought a new Tesla. His electricians somehow wrecked my phone line. He did not want to restore it, but his girlfriend is my twin flame. So gradually we got all the angles rearranged, and just last week the phone company finally agreed to put in the new non-destroyable phone box. And
okay, hi everyone. We were continuing this story. This is Mark Reese, and this is Carrie Cassidy, and this is part 2 or so. And so, Mark, you were just finishing a story, and so go right ahead.
Okay, well, that story's gone, but I know what it was about, and that's more important. I was summarizing why you want to get involved with this nutritional experiment. It improves. Catherine Austin Fitts was speaking about how the rich people can save all their money. The same answer I had taken. Everything she said is a commercial for what I'm doing. It was brilliant. I even spoke to her secretary about it later. And what she said, and here's the answer. She says, "George, they need more awareness." He says, "Well, that makes sense." And she says, "No, you don't understand. They don't have it because they don't eat right. And without the awareness, they're going to have to only have awareness, or they're not going to be able to manage it the way it is now. It's gone out of control. So if they want to save all their money, they've got to get more awareness somehow. That's the answer." And he was saying things like, you know, I think it's doomed. They're all, you know, like that. And I said, no, there is only one point I want to make. You are awareness. That's all you are. I'm awareness. There's nothing else. It's God pretending to be you with your whatever. This is a soul school to wake up and be 100% with God. This product takes you in that direction. Anything other than that, inshallah, is nonsense, and particularly now. So when you eat this product, you have more awareness. And I did a test on my red-nosed pit bull, which is a really aggressive puppy raised by psychopathic guys who like me. And after it ate this food for 6 months, it was a wonderful pit bull, better than any other pit bull, but calm and never went off the track. Same with any crazy dog. This food restores sanity in animals and people because why? It's a perfect, total, 100%, all materials you require for your cell with no bullshit. Simple.
Okay.
So that's what I want you to get.
Okay, very
you
good.
Think better.
Okay, great.
Story.
Okay, now we still have a few more questions in the chat that I want to get to. Is that okay?
Excellent. Yeah.
Okay, just 1 second here. So when you say they shut you down, it sounds like they shut you down for selling this product in the past, the FCC, right?
Yeah, several times.
Okay,
Not
now
the
you're going to...
FCC, the FDA.
The who?
FDA.
FDA, okay, sorry.
FDA, you said FCC.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
They're
I
all...
like what the FCC...
Okay.
They've gotten intelligent again at the FCC, it looks like, suddenly.
Oh, really? That's good to hear.
Anyway.
You know, I have someone I want to connect you with, Richard Allen Miller. Have you seen my interview with him?
I am a biggest fan of his. Oh, my God.
Because you guys would love each other, and I'll put you in contact.
Totally.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
I've been sharing his secret. Let me share this with people. Do this. It works. I invented this. It works. You want to have the experience of the living Christ. You can get it through my product, but to do it in a hurry, God, who I talk to all the time when he needs to say something without words, I invented a way of having water to get rid of chemtrails, which is based on the same theory that Dr. Miller had about putting baking soda. Before I ever heard about him, I invented stretched water because I'm a big fan of Crystal Liquid by Gail Flanagan and her husband. And so how to do it with no money was the trick. You can buy all kinds of things to stretch water, but I don't have those kind of incomes right now. So what I did was, because I have restaurant clients, I got a stainless steel bowl, and I have really good well water here, so I'm blessed. And I put a big, let me show you the size, quartz crystal in the bowl. See, nice, real crystal.
Very nice,
and,
yes.
And I don't have their name because I gave the paperwork to a millionaire neighbor with a Tesla, and they lost it. But I'll show you what it is. It's a little crystal made by a group in Japan for stretching water, and they sell a little bead bracelet to do the same. So what you're doing is stretching the molecule of water. There's 22 molecular forms of water. It's a living element. And as Dr. Richard Allen Miller said, Monsanto, he had the same view of Monsanto people that I came to on my own when he said out loud on Coast to Coast, they're insane. I came to the same view. And I know why, and I know what to do about it. And I know how to help them if they want to take the help. And then, but he said they're at war with mankind. That's obvious. And then he said they're at war with water. And I went, oh my God, there's no end to these idiots. He said there's no executives there. It's rotation. They're all ex-military or intel. Well, I leave you with this book to go and find and read. The Master Game by Dr. Robert D. Rope, 1968. Like me, he's a Gurdjieffian. Like me, he's a social psychologist. The business game, there's no such game in life. Absolutely none. Zero. Now, let's start with the games that exist. Man killers are called mulaks. I'm a mulak soul. Mulaks can be one of two kinds. You're law and order or you're an asshole, period. So mulaks have to be corrected to be what they truly are. I'm no longer a man killer. It's the first life I've ever had on earth where I didn't kill anybody. So I've learned how to do that in my mouth, my words, my heart. There's then the aimless game, no aim game. Well, I played that in this life after COINTELPRO for a while. Then there's the homeowner game, the most difficult game in my experience of any game I've ever seen. There's the art game, the science game, the religion game, and the master game. That's it, folks. Those are the games in life. All the things are sub-games. So we allowed, after the coup d'etat in Lincoln, which is the city of London, and 1/3 of the DC people were in on it. Senators, all kinds of idiots betraying Abe Lincoln. Abe Lincoln, and who I was in my last life, Wild Bill Hickok, we had part of a team. There would be no New World Order now if our team had been allowed to go forward, because it's Archangel Michael bringing the wave of the second coming into life. But those conspirators killed off the agents. When it started again with John Kennedy and Marilyn Monroe and all these cool people, they killed them off too. They killed Martin Luther King. They killed my favorite political man, Malcolm X. You know, they martyred Rajneesh, killed him under the color of law. And Rajneesh was a world teacher predicted by five Indian nations. I was his troubleshooter. He was the 100 most important people on the planet in the 20th century, the Times of London said. And when he got into trouble, he called yours truly. So thank you very much. It's in my astrology to be able to.
Okay, wait. Can we get back to the water for 1 second? So what are you saying about the water?
Yeah, okay, what you do is simple. You put the water in that crystal. If you can get the ceramic or not, doesn't matter. Google, ceramic to stretch, but it won't stretch without that. If you don't get you can stretch it then by doing this following event. You make it like a waterfall, like Walter Struberger said, and you do this. You pour it.
Yes.
You don't need an expensive machine.
Right. I have a girlfriend that does it. One bottle into another bottle. Okay. Then you put it in the crystal.
Yes, for a couple of hours.
All right.
Now that energizes the water to a higher level. Then you acquire a blue bottle. I was skeptical till I read the research on blue water.
No, I met someone at the Conscious Life who was selling those blue bottles, and yes, you hold on to them, you can feel them, they have energy in them.
Yes, and it comes from the sunlight, which now, because of the CIA earth warming bullshit, is 20% less than it used to be when I was young, but it's still sunlight. They actually create global warming, so-called, with their nonsense. I think it's eugenics and nothing else at this point, because chemtrails destroys the soils. Our farm, our organic farm, I've been here the entire century. I watched through the years how the plants recover. It really stresses them out. We had a totally self-contained farm. Now we lose all kinds of things. The bananas, they rot almost as fast as they appear. You have to eat them within a matter of milliseconds before you keep them for days.
Okay, but get back to the blue bottle. So what do you do with the blue bottle? Okay.
Well, okay, you're bringing the water through that process. You put the blue water bottle, you put it in the blue bottle, that water, you put it in the sun for 2 hours. Drink it.
Okay.
You will, if you have that ceramic, I don't know without the ceramic if you'll get this effect, but with it you do. And this is what God confirmed. It is what we call prasad or elixir or soma. You will have a living experience of the living Christ energy itself when you do this. I don't care who you are. And I've tested it with our resident psychopathic handyman, who's a 2-time Pelican Bay loser, and he drank it. He doesn't like to take anything. And he said, "This is really good water." I said, "It is, So you don't have to argue with people. They like it.
Okay. Yeah. Sounds good. Absolutely.
So that's for free. And if you'll see it. Yeah. Glad you could let that in. Hydration is the key, folks. Now I add Dr. Miller's baking soda, 1/4 teaspoon every time to every glass of water I drink, unless I'm just really, really not disciplined enough to remember to do it. And then I catch myself, because I agree with him. And like he said on Coast to Coast, he said, I trained the SEALs, and I told them, when you go out there, I was going to be a frogman. I think it's great. If you have to kill, that's a cool way to do it. You're in all the elements, water, land, air. I was going to be a medical corpsman frogman. I don't want to kill people. But he said the SEALs take it in battle. And I went, yeah, it's a no-brainer. If they get toxic anything and they're drinking this, they're going to stretch the water molecule so it goes deeper in the cell and drags out the toxins. And as long as you keep drinking water, your immune system is happy to do that. That's what it's built for. Flush that out. We know it isn't us. It's radionics, pal. So I leave you with this. Dr. Christopher Hill's widow, my associate, Chris Whitecloud, went to a Las Vegas food conference, at the same time, and he came back with our product. And I said, "What happened?" He said, "Well, they put me in a corner, not much happened," because when I told him spirulina, people didn't like spirulina, didn't get much action. But he said, "Dr. Hill's widow, Penny Hills, said that you, Professor," she didn't say you, she said, "Professor Mark Reese must be the best chemist on earth, because Chris and I tried for 17 years to do what he did. We could not figure out how to potentize spirulina, and he did it. He's a genius. Thank you very much." So I lived out the dream, which started with a Japanese scientist to feed the guys that hate Marines a good food. Now, when I took it to the Pentagon, I dealt with a gentleman named Mr. Fury. He was the most incredible human being that I would like to have millions of middle managers like him. he had no time for nothing but questions and answers, and they'd cut the mustard. I mean, boom, boom, boom. And when then the things he didn't know, he kept an open mind and asked for more. And then he concluded, he said, if this is what you say, I'm not wasting time. I'm taking this up right now to my boss, and he will call you. I waited 2 weeks, and I called Mr. Fury, and he went like this. He said, what? He didn't call you? We've been together 20 years. I'll look into it. And I never heard from him again. Now, what I told him was, I learned that our recon guys are going into battle to protect the opium fields with power bars. Power bars, sugar. If you eat sugar, you will disconnect your higher self and keep it disconnected. There's nothing anybody can do about it. I had to learn that by doing it. You will. You're sending the best warriors of America with a disconnection to their higher self into combat? Are you trying to kill them? I'm really pissed about this. I am so pissed. I could get very angry. I'm not even started getting angry. If Mr. Fury is part of the team, I don't know who should can this. He deserves to go up on charges somewhere. This could have been years ago. And I say, because he took my argument with our argument on my product. Improves intelligence, balances your emotion, strengthens your immunity. You think better, you think faster, your awareness is up. Excuse me, I'm a reborn samurai. I was Masashi in one life. Nobody killed me. I died of old age in all my warrior lives on earth. I know who I am. I was Marcus Aurelius. I wasn't just Genghis Khan. I worked with Michael. Nobody ever killed me in battle. It's impossible. I don't like to die in battle.
Okay.
Got assassinated in my last life. I'm not paying attention. That's another story. Anyway.
All right. Okay, well, thank you for that.
As I'm concerned,
yes.
there's no battle.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see. I'm trying to see if there's any other questions that we might have missed. So, someone, let's see. Okay. Something about well. All right. Yeah, there are a lot of people that are just asking about the availability of the product, et cetera, et cetera.
Sorry, yeah. Be patient and Google the Abraxas Agenda EO initiative. Wait at least 2 weeks. The reason we're like this, let's just get down to basics. Several people that were hired, aside from the dark energies trying to prevent it with the Archons, suddenly at the last minute would break their agreements because the Archons got them. And then I got stalled with 2 different handymen over a period of several weeks on this. So we're just dancing with the darkness to go forward. And that's why I had planned to have a site up for you, Carrie, for the show. And
all right.
So much time sorting out the Skype, didn't do it. I thought that would be cool. So
that's okay. That's okay. So what we're going to do is, once you go public with this website, okay, we will have you back on the show. Okay.
Sounds good, girl. Yeah. Well, this has been you're a dream come true, and I hope this is useful.
All right. It's lovely, and thank you so much for being on the show, Mark. We'll reconvene with you at another date, and I want to thank you again. And people, thank you for listening. We will put this on YouTube as soon as I can get it up there in the next 24 hours. So it will go from live stream to YouTube, and you'll be able to watch it there indefinitely. So thank you very much. Take care, and we'll be in touch, okay? Any last words?
Aloha.
Okay.
Yes, people not in America will set up a franchise for you if you're qualified, which is pretty easy to qualify. And it's a cash cow because Burger King Hawaii was my client for getting rid of toxic waste hazards. I lowball, I always do more for less. One day, the general manager, who looked like Humpty Dumpty and is a wonderful woman, very rare, I walked in the store, and she walked up to me and said, Reese, you're worth your weight in gold. And Burger King offered me their entire Hawaiian operation. I would have made $100,000 a year easily. I would have owned my own sailing ship and motorcycles by now, but I'm focused on this work. But I'm telling you that I know what a Burger King brings in on a weekly basis in a good location. And my model for this, you can do the whole thing for 20% of the cost for startup, 20% of the cost for overhead, 20% of the cost for operations, and by charging 20% less, you'll bring such vast amounts of money on a regular basis, feeding people safe food that protects them from hazards, and you'll be part of this ongoing team for equal sanity for humanity. And you'll be asked gross, some of it goes to urban tree planting and feeding starving children. That's what my organization is about. So there, thank you.
All right. Take care. Bye-bye. Thank you. Good night. In here, but we need to introduce you a bit formally here because we finally have you live, and we've also got a chat room going. So we're going to try to cover a couple bases very quickly here. This is a much delayed broadcast, and I want people to understand who you are and why we're doing the broadcast, and then let everyone know that we're going to be also putting this on YouTube shortly after we are done broadcasting live here on live stream. So that's what's happening. And I am talking to Mark Dharm Reese, and he has got a bio on my website. So if you're interested in who he is, his bio is absolutely fascinating. And I'm just scrolling through it here. So I just want to make you aware that that's who we're talking to. I'm calling him the NBC Whistleblower because he's got a key story about NBC. I believe specifically NBC News. Is that correct, Mark?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and
now that's the backstory. I'd done 26 shows. The producer, Kid Spirit, just come in from Venezuela. He didn't know anything about TV. I later think it was a CIA front as I meditate on it. And I don't have a problem with that. My uncle created the CIA. Lieutenant Colonel called me the colonel. He said, Robert went to Reese. I remember when he left to do it when I was a toddler. And so I realized at the end of this day that I'm about to tell you that they were weird. Ronald Reagan was in the
story slowly. And everyone, please do see his bio. He was a Yale professor. He also was a consultant to the Pentagon, apparently. And he has also consulted and worked with some very well-known names in the world. So we'll go down that road slowly, if you don't mind, Mark. So, Mark, to back up, you were employed by NBC. Is that NBC News? Is that correct?
Yeah, in two capacities: the Speak Up show and an investigative journalist. On the strength of creating such a wonderful show and saving everybody from troubles, it became the most popular show for a long time. So I got
and the name of the show, the name of the show was called what?
Speak Up.
Speak Up.
Speak Up. That's what we're doing right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually. Well, Speak Up. Okay, and what year was this?
1969-70.
All right, and so you were on that show, and you were kind of a producer-writer. Is that right?
We had a producer. I was the writer, and as it turned out, in retrospect, that was the brainstorm of connecting the dots during discussions. So I was a show producer in that sense.
Okay, and then you were also working on another show simultaneously at NBC.
Yes, they hired me to do. They liked my work, and I was thrilled because I love documentaries. I just especially good ones, and. They hired me to do a documentary on Ventura County. This is very important. And it was really special. It was like interview all the officials in the government at every level of every agency and leading, Republican business owners related to the overwhelming population explosion of all the problems that it was creating. It didn't seem to be managed. It was like, does anybody really see where to go? Okay, that took a long time to research, and the script reflected accurately everything I learned. Not one official had a clue of what to do with the situation that they were hired to take care of. Not one. Okay. And I wrote the script in a polite way. Here's my point, the bottom line. NBC paid me. The contract said if I wrote it, they would air it. Suddenly it vanished. They wouldn't air it because it didn't fit their bubble or something.
I see. Okay. And so that happened on that side. But now let's get back to the gassing, what was in essence, I believe, poison gas put on a crowd at Berkeley. So could you explain what was going on at Berkeley, University of California in Berkeley?
Yes, this was an anti-Vietnam War protest movement. It's famous in the history books, and it was quite spectacular when it happened. I mean, there was more people together in an associated collective than anybody had ever seen up to that point. So it was historically a large event. We've had enough. This is ridiculous. This war doesn't make sense. We don't want it.
So it was a protest against the Vietnam War, and do you know the approximate year that protest and that incident happened?
Well, as I said a moment ago, it was either 68 or 69.
All right, that's fine.
It's in the history books.
Okay,
And
yeah,
Ronald Reagan
sure.
was governor.
Okay. And did you go up there and shoot it at all, or did you just simply suggest it as a good story to cover?
Second, a good story to cover, to ask the citizens what they thought about it to get their viewpoints.
Okay. And so what happened at NBC when you suggested the story? Can you tell us bit by bit?
Well, that's what I started to say a moment ago. Everybody in the room suddenly avoided me instantly, just like that. Boom. The director turned 180 and looked out the window with his hands behind his back and started humming. The two producers started talking about a golf game they had on Sunday and golf balls and holes and sticks, and it's went on for quite a long time. And then they turned back and said, okay, resume the meeting. And when it was my turn to speak, I went back to the same point. I said, what about my question a moment ago before you were talking about golf? You know, we need to address this issue because under treaty, tear gas for military use or for crowd dispersals is technically a poison gas. To do that violates international treaty as well as a cosmic law, common law, and UCC law. If he's a signatory to UCC, it's fraud. UCC has a little hidden place in it that if you commit fraud and you relate it to them, it's a $5,000 fine and 5 years in slammer for each separate offense. I didn't know these facts then, but I knew it wasn't right.
Okay.
And so I brought it up again. Now, wait, here's the bottom line on the story. I think you're looking for that, right? I came to work the next day. I had a brand new Pontiac Firebird 400 convertible with Pirellis. I was so proud of myself, you know, Coney shocks. I drive up to the gate at NBC, and the guard comes out and looks at me, and he says, "Are you Mark Reese?" I said, "Yeah." He says, "You can't come on the property." I said, "Excuse me, I'm going to my office. We have a production meeting." Quote, "If you set 1 foot on this property, the governor of California," we didn't have the research then that he was a mafia puppet, but that came out later. But I knew when he tear gassed the free speech movement at Sproul Hall, this had to be our focus. Our dictum for the show was that we would, to mix entertainment and hard news, we would ask every citizen we went to in some public events, so we talked to several, leading key questions. And the first was like a headline question. Everybody answered the same question. Then there were different follow-ups. It was very interesting. It became so popular. Julian got promoted to direct the NBC Nightly News for the rest of his life, and I got fired. And the reason I got fired was when I brought up this topic that Ronald Reagan using military equipment to spread poison gas on free speech, assembled people speaking out on a college campus was absolutely treason to the Constitution. I didn't put it that hard because I knew I was dealing with NBC, but that was my point. I did it more softly. And the minute I said that, the two producers, Kit Spear and the boss, who didn't know anything about anything, turned sideways and started talking about a golf game. And Julian went right around 180 and looked out the only window. And Marilee Reynolds, our lady who kept notes and stuff, she started playing with her fingers, looking at nothing. So after a few minutes, they turned back, and I brought up the question again. I said, "Excuse me, you know, I'm not here. I've got another TV show I work for with Alan Ludden Productions, and we're also inventing magazine news mix, and it was Al Betts Productions, working with the producer of the Tonight Show, Paul Orr, the original Tonight Show. I'm very blessed to have a great training in media. I went on to be a Yale professor in media after the COINTELPRO guys.
Okay. You're going too fast here, and I just want to slow you down. So we want to go a little slower because these people have not heard of you before, and so we want to go through this very important